Okay, so here we are.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We're on our way back from our camping trip in Wales with a bunch of friends, and that was pretty good. I had some interesting conversations about business with a friend of ours. I don't know if you had any, but I had some interesting ones. I wanted to tell you about it because you weren't really a part of the conversation last night.
No.
But one of the things I found really interesting was, we've kind of had this idea of we need to find a gap in the market. At least that's been my thinking of, like, find a little empty space somewhere in the market you can fill and you can make a success of it, because it's sort of in between, not quite popular or not quite thought of. But something that our friend was saying is, he started his business purely because he likes design, but realized like he was never really going to be a car designer or a motorbike designer or anything, but he quite likes it. But instead of doing design himself, he's employed people, he brought people on to then do design and make a business out of it, to the point where he's now got a really successful business. But you don't really have to do something different to be other people. You could do exactly the same thing and just do it better, and that will be enough.
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's one of the things that I've been struggling with when you think about a business, because you go, well, it has to be different and stand out from what everyone else is doing. Otherwise, how do you make a success of it? But if you think about like all the coffee, we like our coffee, and you think about all the coffee roasteries that are around, we don't use just one. We use different ones, but we also, we tend to use ones that have more of a social media branding, marketing presence. And we do that because they're seen by us, because they put in the effort. And so we go, oh, well, that looks interesting. But if you think about, like, when we visited friends last weekend, they were mentioning coffee brands and like coffee beans and where they buy them from places I've never heard of before. I don't know if you had, but you'd ask me to note it down, because I'd never heard of them.
No, I'd never heard of them either.
And then you go, like, is it because they're that small, but they're local, and so they're like, if you're a local, you'll know about them. But because we're on the other side of the country, don't really hear about them,
Yeah.
So that was kind of the one thing that's just been mulling over in my mind. And then one of the things John was saying this morning, you could also look at like businesses in the US. So a friend of his would look at businesses in the US, look at what's successful, and then basically would bring those businesses or start businesses exactly the same like those in the UAE, and go, cool, that works in another country and that will definitely work here, and then would just do it and either bring those companies across or start something up entirely from scratch, and just kept doing that.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's also an easy way to start a business, of going, well, what works in another country that's really successful and doing really well? I think one that you enjoy and that would require a set of skills that sit within your skill set, to then go, okay, cool, we'll go and do exactly the same thing, because it's tried and tested and proven that it works, and you know that there would be a market for it here, and so you just do the same thing.
Yeah. I think that's a totally good way to look at it. And I know that we've been thinking about things and talking about things that are completely new, or that at least we haven't seen or found anywhere. But the advantage of doing something that exists is that it's works.
Trying to test it.
Yeah. It's already pre-validated. So if you take on a business that is successful, it's pre-validation. And in a lot of the blog posts I've read, podcasts that I've listened to, books and that sort of thing, they actually say, a lot of people talk about, don't look for a gap in the market, and if their competitors, like, avoid that market. And actually, no, you don't have to, because competitors or competition in a market means that there is a market for it. And so you can come into that and you can do something slightly different or slightly better or whatever, and stand out from those people and find your own segment of an existing market. And that's perfectly good to do.
Because no business is going to hold monopoly on a market.
Yep.
You know, if you look at like the big companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, or Meta and Amazon, like they do hold the monopoly because they are that big, but it doesn't mean that there isn't space outside of them to still go and do something similar. Obviously not to that scale, but big enough that it could be a healthy, thriving, small to medium business, and doesn't ever have to be anything bigger than that, because that's enough.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons I like the idea of the score share concept, because I did a bit of research, and there is one other company that does sports focused social media.
Yeah.
And they do a lot more than just the score. They do team sheets and rosters and tournament brackets and all sorts of visuals for social media, visuals for sports teams and their social media, which was great. But like, we can get there. It's just sharing the score is where I thought we could start. But they've done really well, and they've raised like millions of dollars in investment. So that doesn't mean that they're making millions of dollars, and I don't know how much they are making, but there's certainly something there that's gotten people invested and excited to invest millions of dollars into a company that's doing that. But there's only one. And so, you know, being the second company in that market, that's a pretty good place to be, because there's evidently a market. It's not completely saturated. So the other thing that I have learned and heard about on this idea, well, I've got a few more thoughts on this concept of using an existing business rather than trying to find something completely new. I think the point you made about find something that you enjoy doing and that your skill sets match up with is one of the big keys. It's a really good idea to do that, because just because a business exists doesn't mean that you're going to make a success of it, because if you don't enjoy it or you don't have the skills, that's useless. So we definitely would need to look at existing businesses that we think are exciting, or at least the field is exciting, and that we have the skills for. 100% agree with that. And I'm very keen to do that. So if you have ideas of things like that, then like we should totally talk about them and consider them. The other thing is we just need to look at the kinds of businesses, because some of them, there will be so many that it's become commoditized. So things like coffee roasters. I wouldn't want to actually start a coffee roaster, because there are so many that it's going to be really hard to carve a space in that market, I think.
I think it depends. I agree with you. It's quite a saturated market for sure. Like there's no two ways about it. But I think because coffee is so popular, you wouldn't struggle for business. And something that John was saying to me this morning, and it's very interesting, is he believes that there is, if you invest a good chunk of money into that company and do proper marketing and get the company moving from a marketing point of view, you could be doing a lot more with it, and it could be a lot more successful than it is. But you need to have the drive and passion to want to push it.
Yes. And I think something like that, like a coffee roastery, because you're competing in quite a busy market, you're going to have to put a lot of time and effort and money into it.
Yes.
I don't think you and I from zero capital could go and take on a coffee roastery and market it better than a lot of other coffee companies are already doing, to the point where we can take some of their customers away from them. Maybe for a few trials and that sort of thing, but more than that, I don't know. So that specific business, I think, is a bit difficult. I also don't like it from the point of view that it's quite a physical goods business.
Yes. And
I'm far more keen on doing digital things, because it's a lot higher margin and a lot less risky from an investment and a capital point of view.
Yep. because it's investing time, efforts, and a little bit of software services, whatever that may look like,
Yeah,
to get you started. Your real money would actually go into your marketing,
exactly.
and that's kind of, I feel like if you've got the right marketing, either agency or team or whatever, to get you going, fine. But I've also heard some really terrible, like, horror stories of, like, the physio at work. They were saying that they've done a whole series of videos to get people moving better, to almost do like home physiotherapy without having to see a physiotherapist necessarily, or keep coming back for sessions. And they paid way too much money to a marketing agency that came in and did a whole thing for them, and it's flopped. Like, none of it's worked. It's not taking off. And I'm like, well, I think that's the biggest problem, is that you're trying to grip people, and having seen some of their videos, like, none of it's gripping, none of it's exciting, and so you're not going to keep people engaged. But I agree with you, like, a physical goods and services business is definitely not something I want to start in. I don't think that that's something we could start in. But down the line, if we go, well, our business has evolved into it, like, there could be a physical goods side to it, fine. Like,
Yes.
then I'm happy to start looking into it,
Yeah.
but not as a start.
So the other thought that I had about starting a business in an existing market where there's already things validated and people in that market. The other thing that I was listening to the other day was, you can still do that. And I know that you said you've just got to do it better.
Just differently, or just, I don't know.
But what typically works better is to do something different rather than something better.
Yeah.
And especially if it's an established market, it's going to be very hard to do coffee better than Square Mile Coffee Roasters or Chimney Fire or Grind, or name a big coffee roastery, or name a big subscription company. It's going to be really hard to outdo them as a small independent operation. But what you can do is you can do it very differently. And so one of the examples that I heard about in a podcast the other day is, I think, the most ridiculous thing, but it's a brand called Liquid Death. Liquid Death is a water company. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they sell canned water, which is not the most revolutionary thing in the world. Canned water is still, like, relatively unknown. Most people buy bottled water, but they went for canned water because it looks different, and they are purely on brand. And it's this huge, like, very heavy, I don't want to say goth, because it's not gothic. I don't know how you describe it, but it's a very distinct, strong brand. But what they're selling is actually not water. They're selling this brand. And they attract a group of people who want to be seen as part of this sort of culture. And therefore, they do really well. And they are $1 billion company just selling canned water.
What?
Which sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
But it's because all they've done is they've done something different. So you go into a shop and all the shelves are filled with bottles of water, and then you've got Liquid Death, which is a can, and all the bottles are blue because water's blue, and Liquid Death is like black, and all the bottles are springs and flowers and rainbows and stuff to represent, like, freshness, and Liquid Death is like skulls and crossbones. And so they just do something completely different to just stand out. I saw in Tesco the other day, and it made me stop and go back to have another look because it's so different. But I was walking through all the spirits, the bottle drinks, glass bottle drinks, and all of them are in glass bottles. All the whiskeys and the brandies and the whatever else was in there. I don't even know because I don't drink that stuff. But there was a tin that looked like motor oil. And so I stopped and I, like, took another look. I was like, what is this and why is it here? And it's called Engine. And it's a whiskey or some sort of spirit, I don't know, but it's in the same shelf with all these glass bottles, and it's the first thing you see because all of these bottles are like clear glass bottles with a tinge of like brown goldy coloring to them, and there's this engine which is a tin that looks like motor oil painted stark white with red and blue lettering and stripes and stuff on it, and like it catches your attention.
Yeah.
And so you can go into a saturated market like that if you do something that's completely different and stands out, that catches people's attention.
Well, I also feel like the only thing that's different is the marketing.
Yes.
It isn't actually the product. Like, the product is exactly the same
Sure.
as anything else that's on the shelf.
Yeah.
But because you package it differently, which is essentially your marketing,
Exactly.
you create a different culture, or you appeal to a different side of the market, which means you get to actually like almost segregate that side of the market for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Liquid Death and this engine drink are doing like two slightly different things, where Liquid Death is creating like a brand and a subculture, and it's appealing to a specific subculture, whereas Engine is just standing out from all of the other drinks that are there,
Shelf.
which is cool. Both of them achieve different things, but I think being clear on what it is you're trying to do is really important. So are you trying to create the subculture and appeal to a subculture and create a brand that people want to identify with, or are you just trying to stand out and be noticed? Both are totally fine. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just like,
Yeah.
be clear on what it is that you're doing.
Yep. Yeah, I get you. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Grind has been so popular. I mean, we've now tried their beans, and they're
good.
fine. They're good, yeah, but they're not exceptional. But they stand out because they went, we're going to go and be more like eco-conscious than other coffee bean places, and we'll do not just ground or beans or ground coffee, but we'll also do like the recycling pods, and then we'll make it pink, because pink is completely different, because who the heck's going to buy pink tins of coffee and bags of coffee? But actually, like, the pink stands out. And I think that's why they have a coffee shop in St. Pancras, and you go, well, finally there's you can actually get a decent cup of coffee in St. Pancras, because you couldn't for a long time.
Yeah.
And then in London. But you still walk into the place and you're like, this is pink. What the flip is this? And then, but you can also buy your coffee 5 different ways, or in 5 different, or however many brewing methods that they offer. And even the capsules are pink. And so because people are becoming more, as I find especially here, are far more environmentally focused, I think that's why Grinders has become so popular and is so popular. Because they're like, well, we're gonna appeal to the side of the market who wants a decent cup of coffee and a more environmentally friendly version to Nespresso. Because Nespresso does decent pods. Their pods are like, their coffee, if you've got an espresso machine and that's what you're into, like, you know what you're going to get. You're not going to get an independent coffee shop cup of coffee, but you're not going to get that from Grind either. But because there's also so much controversy around the pods, the Nespresso pod itself, that aluminium, and whether they actually get recycled or not, because most people believe that they don't even get recycled. And I don't know, like, what the story is there. People are like, well, I don't want to have to do the recycling bag all the time and all that kind of stuff. And I think Grind has a better alternative, and so people are like, well, that works better for me, and I then don't have to feel guilty about having to throw away the pods into my food waste, which I do anyway, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think, I don't even know if that is true. I'd have to look it up, but I'd imagine that they've made it easier for the consumer to be environmentally friendly, but also not have to put in a huge amount of effort.
So, having had that conversation with John, do you have ideas of things that you might want to investigate or explore, or was it just you wanted to talk about that specific facet of we should also look at existing things rather than just new things?
Option 2.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very much like, he told me this and I thought it was very interesting, and I think it's something to really think about and mull over. And also just look at the stuff that we use on a daily basis. And like, I know, and I can't think of them right now, and it made me start thinking when he told me about this morning, is there's so many things that I do on my phone, or I look at something and I'm like, man, I wish I had, like, I just had this extra functionality to make my life easier. And for the life of me, I can't remember that now. Like, I can't think of what it was. But I think that's exactly the point of when you're doing something, you go, man, I wish I had this. Well, then why don't we build it and make something of it? Because you could.
Yes.
Because chances are I'm not the only one sitting here thinking, I just wish I had this extra little bit of functionality.
Yeah. It would be really useful if you could remember some of those things, please.
I know I'm going to try. I'll write them down when I think about them again. This is what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to remember and I can't for the life of me remember. But I know that even in this week, I had these thoughts, like at least twice this week. Man, I just wish I had this to make my life easier.
Well, we've got the Slack channel. Jump into Slack and just pop it in one of the channels.
I will when I remember. And I think this is the thing, like you're passionate. I think we also need to start thinking about your passion. So we've got
yes.
Like you've always wanted to work at companies that helps improve other people's lives. Like that's always been your aim and your goal. And I think that is something to always consider, and especially consider with us, like with starting our own business. And when you look at things, go like, well, how can this make people's lives better? And don't ever, I'm going to say, move away from that mentality. Like keep that in mind in everything that you do, because it doesn't have to be that the first thing we start has to do that, or the first 10 things that we start has to do that. But that, you know, I think eventually that's where you probably would like to be as well.
Yeah, that is why I really like this idea of the score sharing, or not the score sharing app. The score sharing is phase 1 of a multi-phase plan.
Yes.
This is why I really like the idea of focusing on businesses in and around building communities, local communities, and helping people fit in. Because that is a way that we could help people that we wish we had help with in the past.
Yeah.
You know, when arriving in the UK and living in London, we struggled to meet people until we joined a church. When we were in Bedford at Milton Keynes, we struggled to meet people. Granted, especially in Bedford, it was COVID, so probably better that we weren't meeting new people. But in Milton Keynes, we struggled to meet people. And we went and we looked for churches, but that didn't materialize. And we didn't really know where else to go or what else to do.
Exactly.
I don't know if there is anything out there to help you meet people. I think there is, like, I actually heard the other day, I think it's Bumble, which is one of the dating apps. They actually have a Bumble for Friends or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Where it's designed to help you meet people with similar interests to you, which I think is pretty cool. I'm not sure if it's Bumble, but it's one of the dating apps. But they have a friend hookup thing rather than a hookup thing, which is cool.
Yes.
I don't know if that existed when we were in Milton Keynes. If it is, we definitely didn't try it.
Don't think so.
But yeah, creating some way to find and build communities. And I think if somebody is actively looking for a community, that's one side of the market. The other way is having local activities, local things be more visible to the people in the area.
Yes.
And we tried to engage on social media with stuff happening in Milton Keynes, in and around Milton Keynes. At least I did. I think you did too. But I look for Milton Keynes foodie Instagrammers, and I look for sports teams, and I look for Milton Keynes, just general Milton Keynes social media accounts and that sort of thing, just to try and find out like what's going on in our area and where can we get involved and what's interesting and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I never really found anything all that interesting for us. And so I think it would be really cool if we could help local community activities and groups be more visible to the people who might be looking for some sort of community and some sort of connection. Anyway, I feel like that's a long ramble, but the point is that's why I really like that idea, because it is helping people. and it may be helping them from the other side. I don't know how to say that better. Like it's helping them by making the communities that they might want to join better. And so it's not helping the people looking for communities directly. It's helping the communities bring other people in.
Yes.
But to me, that's still helping people.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's still building community. And so what you're doing is you're enabling people to find community, but for the community to also grow. And instead of having a whole suburb or town, everyone is a stranger. I look at like where we live now, and it's still a fairly new area, and like unless you have existing friends live in the area, you kind of are a little bit stuck on your own. And so how do you make friends? Well, if you have a kid and your kids go to the same school, you end up sort of making friends. But what about people who have older kids, or people who don't have kids, or who are never going to have kids, or only going to have kids in 4, 5, 6 years time, but they want to look, I'm not saying like I want, you don't want to create a culture of, well, you know, we're banging down each other's doors, but it would be nice if they were like, no, because I think this is the other thing, is people struggle with there being pressure. And so you have like a community type of app, let's say, where you can say, well, my interests are walking, I have kids, or I have a dog, or this kind of thing. And so like then just arranging, or people being able to arrange a local dog walk meetup. So every morning at 7, meet at this spot at 7 o'clock, and we'll take our dogs for a walk. And if it ends up being 5 or 2 or 10 or 20 people, like you at least end up, and if you want to walk alone, that's fine. But if you would like company, it gives you the opportunity. I mean, there was a group of ladies in our area who, they put it on the Facebook community group, and they've gone once or twice. I don't know if it's still going. I haven't seen a post of it since. But you still kind of go like, it would be so much nicer if instead of having a Facebook community page that gets hundreds of posts in a month, changes, because they've now also changed the community group to like group things together. But you still have to go digging, and that's just not. I don't know.
I don't think Facebook groups are built for that particular purpose.
No, definitely not.
They work because people have sort of shimmed them in a way that you can make it work.
Yes,
but it's not great.
No, and but that's what I'm saying. Like that, I don't enjoy having to go and scroll and search and whatever. Whereas if you had like a little community app that like activities within your community, and you can filter it for different things, for walking or kids play groups or meetups or whatever, then you could actually do that.
Yeah.
And that it's just easier to find, because that's the other problem, is it's difficult to find things. It's find people, and also just like get people off their butts, getting out and like trying to do stuff.
So I mean, I don't think Facebook groups are great for that, and I would love to build some sort of app for that, but that's a big undertaking.
Yes.
And so I think it's worth finding a low effort, small start kind of way to do that. And I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that having something better than a Facebook group would be great. The only other trouble that I see with that is then you have to get everyone onto that platform, and everyone's already on Facebook. So
yeah,
I don't
it's
really
another
know.
app and another account and another thing to.
Yeah. And so you've got to find a way to make it really appealing to people so they want to sign up on your platform and that sort of thing. And I don't know how you do that. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. We can figure it out. But there are just a lot of challenges in the way of that.
Yeah. But if you think of things in the way of like the UK and the importance of mental health, you know, it is something that you could like roll out to a whole country. Like if you rock up and you go somewhere for a weekend and you see, oh well, here in Scotland where I'm going on holiday, they do like a family walk, and you've gone on a family holiday, and they do like a family nature walk, and the meetup is 9 o'clock. Like that kind of stuff helps you also then have a bit more of a local experience in local communities when you go away, sort of thing. But it also just helps you when you're moving to a new area and you've got questions about like what's going on and what do people do for fun and that kind of thing, that it's very easy to farm it. And I feel like that's something that you could very easily, well, I say easily, with a lot of work, sell. I almost want to say like to the government that you like is on the, almost like on your, when you register for council tax, that's kind of like on the website to tell you like, go and download this to help you integrate into your community and help you like back it. Yeah, and it doesn't have to cost you, like it doesn't have to cost a fortune, because you can generate revenue in different ways from it. You know, you don't have to necessarily generate it from your users, and you don't have to generate millions from, you know, your local councils kind of thing, because it's low subscription fee, and you only have to build it up to a point, because it doesn't have to be then like forums and all that kind of stuff, because people don't have to converse. It could be a simple like create an event, and then people literally could have a, for this week's meetup, go, or I'm going, you know, like a little thing to say that they're going, so that at least when it comes to the meetup time, that you don't rock up and there's no one there and people are too afraid to go because they're afraid no one else will be there, because that will also be a concern.
Yeah, some things to think about. I think we need to have a look at existing businesses that we think are interesting, but that we also think could do with a bit of change, that we think are very interesting and that we think we could do different or better or something like that, and that interest us and excite us. We can definitely look for those sorts of businesses too. And yeah, please remember, if you are on your phone and you think of, oh, this is frustrating, I wish I could just do A or B or X, please write it down in Slack.
I will be posting in Slack.
Thank you. Cool.
Cool.
I think we should also ask our listeners/viewers, hi folks,
Hi.
thank you for coming along on this journey with us. I think we should also ask them for frustrations that they face. So if you could leave a comment or feedback or a review, or if this is on YouTube and you're watching it on YouTube, leave a comment below.
Yeah, let us know what are the things that you've been struggling with, like in your community, or finding things or businesses that you think could do things a little bit better, that you feel like there's something missing, that you are like, oh, actually it would be really cool if it could do this or do that.
Yeah.
Like add ideas and like throw things at us, and we'll see what sticks and what we could feasibly do, because we're keen.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And then I think in a future episode we should try talk about the community that we found with playing Frisbee, because Yolandi mentioned at the start of this that we were on the way home from a camping trip. We went whitewater rafting with our Frisbee team.
Yep.
And it's not even like a competitive Frisbee team. It's literally just a social team.
It's a social team who's far too competitive.
Yes.
And we ended up being like a group of, I think it was about 28 of us that play Frisbee, and we all just had some fun, and like we've been able to make friends and just have a little bit more of a community of people that we can reach out to and talk to, depend on, and just do a little bit of life with and hang out with every Tuesday.
Yep. So it was cool. So we'll maybe talk about that a bit more in the future. We'll see. Cool.
I think it'll be good.
Thanks for listening. Leave a review, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a 5-star review, leave a, I don't even know.
Far too cheeky.
Yeah. Leave a thumbs up if this is on YouTube. Like and subscribe. All of those things.
All these things.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. Catch you later.